Welcome to the hair drawing demos. We're going to take a look at 8 different hairstyles. We're going to focus really on the rough and the refined stages of drawing out these characters' hairstyles. And this first character here, we'll call her Edgy. She has a very simplified style, a nice clear overall look. Really trying to be loose there, but using some strange straight angles in the hair to achieve that unique overall iconography of her hairstyle. And really just keeping the inner lines minimal. Moving on to Ni at the bottom left corner. He's your typical scruffy haired, possibly a samurai type of character. Very much a sun or star based style type of hair. There's a lot of spikes in it. And really drawing over, making sure those line overlaps read in the rough. Trying to figure out some inner hair details there, just to show a little bit of extra tufts of hair. Moving into the refined phase. Keeping those overlaps clear, thinking very carefully in these types of hairstyles about our variance of big, small, and medium clumps of hair. Also mixing up some of those shapes, getting some flick types of shapes in there, some curve against straight shapes. A few S-curves as well. Keeping the variance in hairstyle designs, especially in these types of very spiky hair designs, is quite important. The minute you start sawtoothing on these types of hairstyles, it looks really repetitive, it looks fake, it looks very forced. And of course, hair you want to be as natural as possible. Moving on to a more simplified style, more of a cutesy style. This character is Sun, and she's got 2 little pieces of hair that come down the side of her face. And she's also got a fair amount of bangs on her forehead. Really, here I'm working small because I like to get the overall shape down and the shape read down before I move in and do the refined stage and just get the clean lines in. And keep in mind, you don't have to stick exactly to the plan. You'll see in most of these, you know, we're relative to the plan, but I'm not trying to trace over the rough when it comes to the hair. I'm really just trying to keep things loose and flowy. And just make sure that the masses read well and that they make sense with those line overlaps. You can see I'm changing the shape quite a few times there, just making sure I'm getting the lines that I want to get. And just rotating the canvas, same as turning the page, just helps you get certain angles a lot easier because your hand has very particular natural arcs, your hand and your arm. She does have a headband accessory. And really you can say that this character's hair is primarily C-curves. You won't see many S-curves, if any at all. And that is also another way you can define types of hair. Hair with a lot of C-curves really is straighter type of hair. It's not very wavy. Whereas hair with a lot of S-curves in it tends to be more wavy. Then this character called Yonne, a very shojo type of style character, young, kind of cute looking, very simplified style, and very, very spiky hair. Striving for variance, especially in these types of styles, it's very important because you can very quickly lose that natural look if you have too many repeating clumps and sharp points. So even in the fringe, the way the fringe is defined, there is an attempt at variance at every juncture. So really, if you're constantly thinking about the sizing specifically, you'll be pretty much on the right track to getting a natural looking hairstyle. You can see there was some parallels there in two of those spikes. Moving on to Go, just establishing the big basic forms. She's got front bangs, that's one separate form, and then she's got the rest of her hair, the sides and the back. And her hairstyle is primarily made up of C curves with a few S curves, slight S curves in here and there, just to give it a bit more of a wavy look. And here she has a straight cut fringe. But again, even in a straight cut fringe, utilizing this big, small, medium, and the variance of the shapes to keep things looking natural. Also emphasizing the line overlaps here for the bangs, so that they're clearly bangs, they're coming in front of the character's head and in front of the rest of the hair. And then using a few overlaps at the top of the head, some straights, just to add some diversity to the overlaps there. She's got very long hair strands, very long swoopy kind of hair strands. Once again, keeping interior strands minimal, only putting a few where you need them, but not going too crazy, just putting thousands of lines in the hair. It can be very, very distracting for the viewer. And a little flick at the top of her head. More of a simplified style. This character is Roku. And I decided after the rough stage to add in additional hair strands coming out the front of her to give her a bit more of a definitive look. So she has a lot of straight angles in her hair, a lot of right angles. Again, this is very much stylization. It's an exaggeration of the bends of the hair. It's not to say that it's not physically possible with gel. It's not something that you commonly see in normal hair. And very important to emphasize line overlaps in these types of hair shapes for a natural look and to show the volumes of the hair. You can see some overlapping happening there at the back of the head as well, just to show that there is hair masses overlapping other masses. Thought it would be fun to give her ponytails, give her a little bit more of a youthful look. Also changed up her pupils to be stars. She's some kind of magical girl type of character. And here again, using a lot of straight against curve to get some of these really dynamic hair shapes going. Once again, overlaps, absolutely critical to have this work. Going from thick to thin, thin to thick, never having too many parallel lines in the hair. And just replicating that design to some extent. Some flicks, just kind of add some dynamism to the ponytails. Again, careful use of overlaps, very restrained use of inner hairlines. And also some more straight types of lines, some 90-degree angle bends, typically aren't very realistic, but really match the style nicely. Some overlaps. This character is Nana, or Shchi 7, and was going for a burly character type of look here, just doing the massing of the beard, just keeping them very blocky, keeping the beard clumps very blocky, the moustache very blocky, just big overall shapes. And I gave this character a mohawk, so I built really a mohawk shaped volume, and it really isn't too much of a strandy type of hairstyle, it's just a big volume. But in the small overlaps there, keeping that shape variance of big, small, medium going. Just implying the smooth cut of the hair in this big volume. And then once again, size variance and overlaps. It's definitely very, very stylized for facial hair. It's not your typical look, but it still works. And it has a very appealing type of look to it. With the moustache, overlaps are very, very important. And then moving on to Hachi, which is our 8th character. Again, two big masses, the bangs and the rest of the hair, especially the front of the hair, these two front strands that hang down, they have a little bit of braids in them. You can see that there's really that bottom weighted hairstyle design, something that can happen with straight but heavy hair. There's just a lot of hair clumping at the bottom. Drawing a little hairband or braided elastic or something like that. And then really defining the details of the forms of the hair here. Trying to be very careful with the sizing and putting in overlaps, additional overlaps where necessary. Looseness is absolutely critical. I know I've said it a few times already. It's absolutely critical. Digital gives you the advantage of really undoing your lines, but when you're working traditionally on pencil and paper, you'll want to make sure that your roughs are to a much higher level of quality. Typically then, you put a new sheet of paper on top of your roughs using a light box, and then you clean up your drawings with a very steady hand using multi-liner pens or inks, India inks. So it's a little bit of a different workflow, but the theory is fundamentally the same. If you'd like to see the full-length demo of these particular heads being drawn, that is at the end of the module, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.